I ended up missing the first 15 minutes because I overslept. Oh well. So Brightburn is a movie directed by David Yarovesky. I hope I'm saying that right. And it stars Elizabeth Banks and David Denman as Jonathan and Martha Kent. And they come across an alien space pod that crash lands near their farm. And they go and investigate, and they discover that space pod has a little baby boy inside of it. And so they take that baby boy, adopt him, and raise him as their own. And they name that baby boy Clark Kent. And Clark Kent eventually grows up to become the greatest superhero the world has ever known, Superman. Wait, that's another property. Brightburn tells the story of Tori and Kyle Breyer, who discover a space pod near their farm in Brightburn, Kansas, and in that space pod, they discover a little boy who they name Brandon Breyer. And instead of growing up to become the world's greatest superhero, Superman, while still a kid, he becomes basically a psycho, an American psycho. And actually, he's worse than the Injustice Gods Among Us version of Superman. And so yeah, I basically mentioned the Superman origin stories for a reason, because that's essentially what this movie was. And I don't say that to take shots at the movie or speak about it in a negative light. In fact, that's the thing that got me interested in this movie in the first place, because basically it was a take on what if Clark Kent didn't grow up and become Superman, but while as a child he became murderous. And also considering this movie does not take place in the DC universe, so you seemingly don't have other superheroes in this world. While watching the trailer, I was like, how do you stop someone that's basically a god? If you have the powers of Superman and you're a bunch nothing but mortals, you're basically a god among us. So in most movies, the villain gets defeated in the end, right? So I was just like, how do you stop a person with the powers of a god? And side note, I actually just realized I'm basically talking about a Superman movie, and I'm wearing Batman underwear right now, so there's not much to say about this movie because this movie is basically pretty straightforward in its premise. I must say though that as a black gay man living in America, when Brandon started talking about feelings of superiority, I couldn't help feeling like, so basically this movie is about white entitlement privilege. And someone like Dylan Roof popped into my head. And those thoughts weren't helped by the fact that the one black character that they had in this movie, the sheriff, ended up dying, which you did see in the trailer.
Tori!
You're safe now.
With that said though, I did enjoy this movie overall. Like, I thought most of the main actors were great. This movie had a decent amount of humor, which I wasn't expecting. And I enjoyed seeing the struggle of the parents when they realized that out of the blue, the child that they raised and loved and nurtured suddenly started basically going crazy. And then seeing the conflict in their face of wanting to be stern parents, but at the same time, it's like, how do you punish a child that has super speed? You can't hit a child that has super strength when the very action of striking him might possibly break your hand. So it's like, really, what can you do? And so I enjoyed seeing that struggle from the parents. I'm not sure if the intention of this movie was to be a one and done type of movie, or if they would like to expand upon this world. And granted, based on what happens at the end, I would love for them to expand upon this world. But regardless of whether they want to continue this into a franchise or not, I will say the thing that I was most disappointed in, because I mentioned earlier that this movie was pretty straightforward and I didn't have much to say about it. I didn't mean that in a bad way, but I will say, considering that they mentioned that in the 12 years that Brandon's been growing up, he's been a pretty normal kid, but then suddenly he starts acting out. And you can make the argument or say that he started acting that way because of bullying and his circumstances and everything else, but at the same time, it's like they try to have their cake and eat it too by saying in one scene he's acting out because he's being bullied or he just doesn't like the way somebody's talking to him, but then in the next moment they make it seem like he's not in control of himself, that he's being possessed by some force, and yet they don't really go into it. They don't really go into his motivations, and so I don't really know his psyche or what drives him or what's causing him to act the way he does, and I wish that was explained. And they also don't go into the fact of where he came from. Like, granted, I know it's outer space, but we're in outer space. Why did they send him to planet Earth? Like, I wish they would have went more into that, because part of me feels like, okay, it's one thing to feel like you're superior, but it's another thing entirely to go on a killing spree. But speaking of killing sprees, like, I know this movie is rated R, but this movie is way gorier than I expected it to be. Now, granted, it's not like Saw or Hostel levels of gory, and there aren't a whole lot of moments of gore, but the moments that you do see it, you're sitting in the theater like, holy fuck. But yeah, like I said, overall, I did enjoy the film. If you're a fan of comic book movies or you're a fan of horror thrillers, I definitely think this movie is worth watching. I just wish we got a little bit more background and lore of the main character. With that said though, before I do rate the movie, I do want you guys to check out the description box below. I'm trying out a new rating system, and so the description box below will basically explain my rating system. So my rating for Brightburn, I would say the movie not only broke even, but it made a little bit of profit in the end. In layman's terms, that's basically a C+. But yeah, that ending though, I definitely want to see this world expounded upon. And if you do plan on seeing Brightburn, I will say stay away from certain articles and stuff online because, like, for example, comicbook.com, they basically spoiled the ending in the headline of their article. Trash. So anyway, what did you think of Brightburn? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was meh? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, while you're at it, please hit that thumbs up on this video. It'll really help out the channel, and check out my other videos and be sure to share them with your friends, family, and neighbors to help me continue to grow. Also, side note, I'm just now realizing that David Denman is the same actor that played the demon Skip from Angel. I love this guy even more now. And as always, I'll catch you guys next time.